you keep this on the left. X's stay on the left. That goes over to the left and changes operations. It's a +2 there, and it becomes -2 on the other side. Constants stay on the right. There's a 5. This one's got to go over with it and become -1. Changes operation. So 3x minus 2x is just an x. 5 minus 1 is 4. Try this one. Alright, Fowler, did you leave the 7x on the left?
Yeah.
Did you move the 2x over and make it -2x? There it is. Alright, so from there you keep the 4 on the right and then move that -1 to the right and make it +1. So this simplifies to 5x equals 5. Divide both sides by the number that's next to this x. So you're left with not a 5, a 1. I can't erase when I'm recording, so I just have to scratch it out. Here's the last one. Did you leave that -x on the left? Okay, did you move this over and make it +2x? Alright, on the right side, did you leave this on the right?
Yeah.
And did you move this over and make it +3?
Yeah.
Alright, so when you added these together, -x and 2x, did you get an x?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, so that's where it's at. We found your mistake. So x should have been 7. Pick a number from 1 to 5. Winning number is 3. This is the homework check, so before you come up here with your homework, make sure your last name is on it at the top. You have Algebra 2 written at the top, and you have yesterday's date on it, the date that it was assigned, 8/19/13. You'll thank me for this later, because when you start going through your notebook near the end to turn it in, you won't have a clue what anything is unless you start dating it and put it all together. So we have a total of 9 people here today. No, we just have 8. We have 8 people here, but this is his first day, so we don't count it. So out of 7, we had 7 people turn in homework, so that's 100%. First period had 100%, and second period had 90%. You have 100%. Homework answers. I'm going to show you the screen like this. There's the answer to number 1 circled. Put a check mark beside the problems that you got right. And at the end, we'll add them up. You don't lose any points for missing anything, because once you turn in your homework, you get 50 out of 50 if you did all the work. And this is just 1 extra credit point per right answer. So number 1 is -1. 2 is I. 3 is I. 4 is I. 5 is I. 6 is 1. 7 is I. 8 is 1. 9 is 1. And 10 is I. Today's objective, same as yesterday. It's going to be know there is a complex number I such that I squared equals -1. And every complex number has the form a plus bi with a and b real numbers. And today's knowledge targets, you'll be able to define I as square root of -1 or I squared equals -1. Define complex numbers and write complex numbers in the form a plus bi with a and b being real numbers. Here's the first example. Before we do the example, we're going to do a review. Here's a review from yesterday. Just say the answer when you know. What is I? Square root of -1, right. What is I squared? -1. What is I to the third? -I, yeah. What is I to the fourth? I to the fourth is 1. What is I to the fifth? I. What is I to the sixth? Negative 1. I to the seventh. Is it negative 1? Negative I, yeah. What is I to the eighth? Yeah, it's going to be 1. It's 1 because 8 is a multiple of 4, and all multiples of 4 end up being 1. For today, you have to multiply two complex numbers together. So in the first quantity, the complex number is 3 plus 2i, and the second quantity is 4 minus 3i. You have to remember back to Algebra 1 how to do the FOIL method. Alright, so what you do to multiply these two together is start with the 3 and multiply it by the 4. Come up with a 12. Stay with this 3 and multiply it by minus 3i. You have to include the sign in front of it. 3 times a negative 3i is negative 9i, and we write it as minus 9i. Now once you've done those two steps, you're finished with the 3. You have to move over here to the 2i. So you're going to do 2i times 4. So that's plus 8i. And then stay with that 2i and multiply it by the minus 3i. So 2 times a negative 3 would be negative 6, but you have I times I. What is I times I? You would add the exponents. I times I. I squared is right. Because I by itself just has an exponent of 1. If you multiply two of them together, you add those exponents. So it's I squared. Any questions about what we've done so far? Alright. Now you have to simplify this. And you look over here to this 12, and there's not much you can do with it right now because there are no other constants in your expression. But you do have minus 9i plus 8i. What's a negative 9 plus 8? Negative 1, but we don't write the negative 1, we're just going to write minus I. So negative 9i plus 8i is just minus I. Now out here on the end you have minus 6i squared. What is I squared? Yeah, it's I times I, but what is I squared simplified? Negative 1, yeah. I squared is negative 1. So you end up with a minus 6 times a negative 1. That's a double negative. So that becomes plus 6. Now we still have to simplify this. We have a 12 and a plus 6. So that's going to be 18. 18 minus I. That's going to be your final answer. And all of your answers have to be written in the form A plus BI. You have to put your constant first and then your I term second. Example 2. Where am I going to start? Yeah, we're going to start with the 6. And what do we multiply it by? 6 times 5, right. So that'll give us a 30. What do we do next? Yeah, 6 times I. And what does that give me? 6i. So we do plus 6i. Where do I go next? Yeah, the negative 2i right here. You have to include the sign with it. And what do I multiply it with? Yeah, we multiply by 5, so what is that? Negative 10i. Now I multiply negative 2i by I. And what is negative 2i times I? Negative 2i squared, yes. Alright, So now we have to go back and simplify this. There's nothing you can do with the 30 right now. But we do have 6i minus 10i. What does that give us? Negative 4i, right. And then here on the back end, we have I squared, which is a negative 1. So that minus 2 times negative 1 gives me what? Not 3. What kind of 2? Positive 2, yeah. Yeah, because we have this negative 2 times what is now a negative 1, so that's a positive 2. So we write plus 2. Now we can simplify. What two things can I simplify in here now? 30 and the 2. So that gives me 32 minus 4i. And we're in the right form of a plus bi. On the practice problem, you should have 28 minus 35i plus 12i minus 15i squared. Can't do anything with the 28, but this will simplify to be a minus 23i, and this changes to a plus 15. Simplify this and this to get 43, so the answer is 43 minus 23i. The bonus is 4x equals 15 minus 3. So that's going to be 12. Divide both sides by 4 to get a 3. Negative 3x equals negative 9 plus 6. And that'll give you a negative 3 on the right. Divide both sides by negative 3 to get a 1. Alright, for the practice problem, you should have 18 minus 6i plus 6i minus 2i squared. You can't do anything with the 18 yet, but these you can simplify. Negative 6i plus 6i is 0i, and it just cancels out. You don't even have to write 0i. Back here you have a negative 1, so negative 2 times negative 1 is going to be plus 2. Your final answer should be 20. If you wrote 20 plus 0i or minus 0i, I'll still give you that for this one time only. You should have negative 2x equals negative 12 minus 4. Negative 2x equals negative 16, and divide both sides by negative 2 to get 8. Example 3. In example 3, this is essentially just half of one of the problems we just did. All you're doing is multiplying a quantity by one term. So you would do I squared times 2, which is 2I squared. And then I squared times 3i is 3i to the third. Make sure you add the exponents properly. You have I squared, and then this is I to the first. So 1 and 2 will make 3 right there. Alright, then simplify. You have a negative 1 there, and I to the third is a negative I. So you really have a negative 2 minus 3i once you do the multiplications. And this will be your final answer since it's in this form, a plus bi. What do I multiply first? By what? Yeah, what do I get? Yeah, negative 4i to the third. What do I do next? Yeah, multiply 4i to the third by negative 3i. Must include the sign in front of it. What would that be?
Minus 12 to the 4th.
Yeah, minus 12i to the fourth. Because you have an exponent of 3 and then 1, which isn't written. So go back through and simplify. You have negative 4 times I to the third, and I to the third is really negative I. Minus 12 times I to the fourth, and that is 1. So when you simplify, you have a double negative here, and that's going to give you 4i. Then on the back end, you have minus 12. You cannot leave your answer in this form because it's not the form we need. You must have your constant first, and then your imaginary number second. So you just switch them around. You have minus 12 plus 4i. For the practice problem, you should have 12i minus 9i squared. Can't do much with this right now, but for the minus 9i squared, I squared is negative 1, so that gives you a double negative. Makes it plus 9, but you have to switch it. 9 plus 12i is the right form. You should have a negative x equals negative 7 plus 6. And that is a negative 1, but when you have a negative sign here, you have to divide everything by negative 1. So that changes this sign to positive 1.